Now, the second myth that people are going to try and drag you off course with, and gosh, everyone believes this one, is they'll tell you, look, if you want to grow, if you want to get ahead in life, if you want to get promoted, you can't rely on your strengths. In fact, you've got to figure out what you're not good at and really work at getting better at it. And this starts really early in school, doesn't it? You came back home with 2 A's, a C, and an F, and everyone, your parents, your teachers, they focused on the F, didn't they? You were really good at English and bad at maths, and you got remedial maths. And this continues at work. It will. You'll go to your first performance review, and it'll be 2 minutes on what you did well, and then they'll really drill down into what you need to work on. And what you'll need to work on are your weaknesses. If you're not careful, your whole career is going to be one long remedial math class. Now, the point here isn't that you can ignore your weaknesses at work. You can't do that any more than you can ignore the F in school. The point is that you shouldn't be working on your weaknesses. You're not going to grow most in the areas where you're weakest. You should be working on your strengths. That's one of the truths that's so important for you to remember. You're going to grow most, learn the most, develop the most, be challenged the most, bounce back fastest when you're working on your strengths. If you want to know a truth, know this one. Always be working on your strengths. If you want to succeed in life, you've got to deliberately push your time toward where you have some unfair advantage over everybody else. That means each week, you ought to have a strong, weak plan. Each week, you got to have a strong, weak plan. That's not complicated. That just means that each week, you're going to have 2 things, just 2 things you're going to do each week to push your time toward your strengths and away from your weaknesses. Just 2 things you're going to do every week for the rest of your life. Think about the most successful people you know. Just for a minute, just think about the most effective people you know. Just get them in mind. Just visualize them. Don't they seem to spend an awful lot of time doing activities that really jazz them, that energize them? And you look at them and you go, you lucky devil. You lucky devil. How'd you find a job like that? How'd you find a life like that? How'd you find a job that fit you so perfectly? But of course, they didn't find it, did they? They built it. Each week, every week, they deliberately pushed their time toward those things that energized them and away from those that didn't. Each week, they pushed and pushed until gradually they tilted the floor until the best of their job became most of their job. Well, you should do the same. Each week, volunteer your strengths to your team in some way. Each week, show your team how your strengths can help the team achieve its goals. Each week, deliberately learn some new skill, some new technique, some new trick that will help you put your strengths to work. And then slowly, gradually, each week, you'll rewrite your job description under your boss's nose, and he'll or she'll love you for it. Because then you'll win. Now, some people will tell you not to do that. They'll say, look, the team needs more from you than just playing to your strengths. You can't just play to your strengths, they'll say. The team needs you to put your strengths aside and do whatever it takes to help the team. There's no I in team, they'll tell you. They're wrong. That's actually the last myth that might be holding you back. The myth that the best teams have a bunch of well-rounded people all playing every role equally well. Well, they aren't like that, are they? You look at the best teams. You think about the best teams. They're not made up of a bunch of people all playing every role. They're made up of a bunch of people who have figured out what their strengths are, and they've surrounded themselves with people who are strong where they're weak. So the team has become well-rounded precisely because each individual in it isn't. Well, if you want to become a great team player, you've got to do the same. You've got to partner with people who are strong where you're weak. The point of being a great team player is not to put up with all the stuff that weakens you. The point of being a great team player is to partner up with people who are different from you. What we, your teammates, what we need from you is we need to know, where are your shoulders broadest? Where can we rely on you the most? When the pressure's really on, where can we count on you the most? When the pressure's really on, what plays can you run? And you need to know the same from us so that we can partner up and get stronger together. Now, to be that kind of team player, the kind of person who knows their strengths, knows their weaknesses, and can stand up for both, that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of honesty. Warren Buffett, second richest man in the world. He knows a fair bit about that kind of honesty, that kind of courage. Recently, he did something really strange, didn't he? He gave away $31 billion to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he held a press conference to try and explain why he would do such a thing, where somebody said, hey, why'd you give all your money to somebody else's charity? And he gave two answers. One of them predictable, the other one just odd. The predictable one was this. He said, I gave it to the Gates Foundation because they can give it away better than I can. They are better than me, so I'll give it to them. They'll give the money away better than me. Typical, practical, Buffett-like answer. And if he'd have left it at that, we'd have chalked it up to just another example of Warren Buffett being smarter and wiser and humbler than the rest of us. But he didn't leave it at that. He couldn't. In the Buffett equivalent of Jack jumping up from the sofa, he couldn't help himself. He went on and he said, besides, charity's no fun for me. Who says that? I mean, some of us may occasionally think that, but who says charity's no fun for me? Imagine the kind of courage and self-assurance it takes to stand up in front of the world and go, you know what? That's not me. In work, that would be like you saying, you know what? I don't want to be a manager. I don't like being responsible for other people's work. When everyone's telling you that to get ahead, you should want that you should want that job, that you should want to be promoted, it takes a strong person to be able to stand up and go, you know what? That's just not me. Now, when Warren Buffett said that, he wasn't trying to hand off all the rotten jobs off to somebody else. He wasn't saying that charity is stupid work. He wasn't disrespecting the goals of charity. He was saying something much wiser, much smarter, wasn't he? He was saying, look, I so respect the goals of charity, they can't be entrusted to a guy like me. Well, if you're going to be a great team player, you've got to have that kind of courage. You've got to have that kind of honesty. You've got to be able to take a stand for your strengths and then fess up to your weaknesses. And then surround yourself with people who are strengthened by the very things that weaken you. Then and only then are you going to achieve the kind of success that you always knew you could achieve. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to stay on your strengths path. Not least because other people, well-meaning people like your manager or your parents or whoever, are going to try and drag you off it. You'll go back, you'll use your strengths, you'll be successful, and then people will offer you a bigger job, a better job, with more money, a nicer desk, a better view. And some of those jobs you should take, but some of them you shouldn't, because they don't allow you to play to your strengths. And if you're not really careful, you're going to wind up over-promoted in a job that you shouldn't have. Well, the only person who has to stay clear-headed enough to figure out which doors to march through and which doors to slam shut is you. And I'm not saying this journey is without risk either. The whole strengths journey that you should be on for your life, there's risk to that. There's risk that one day you're going to go back and go all out with all of your strengths and not win. Like my son Jack will take all of his competitiveness, just really go all out with it and not outperform a competitor. That's a bitter pill to swallow, that is. Or maybe there's a risk that you'll go back and you'll say to your manager, I'm weakened by confrontation. And she'll go, like I care? You're trying to just hand off all the rotten stuff off to some other person. So yeah, there's risk that you'll be misunderstood. But a writer, Anais Nin, had a great line on risk. She said this, she said, and the day came when the risk it took to remain all tight in the bud became greater than the risk it took to blossom. There's risks to blossoming. There's risks to betting your life, your career, your success, your satisfaction on your strengths. But you know that from this day forward, the risks of not doing so are far greater. Because here's what I know. One, I know you have strengths. Whatever you think about in terms of your strengths and weaknesses, there are certain activities that make you feel strong. You have strengths. Two, I know that no one's got quite the same configuration, quite the same pattern of strengths and weaknesses as you do. The least interesting thing about you is your race, your sex, your age, your nationality. All the really interesting, unique things about you are beneath the surface, and no one's got quite the same strengths and weaknesses as you. Third, I believe that you'll be your most creative, most effective, most productive, most resilient when you figure out how to play to your strengths most of the time. And last, I believe that everyone will win when you do. You'll win, your company will win, Your friends will win, your family will win, the world will win, everyone will win when you do. That's what I believe. But it doesn't matter what I believe. In the end, it matters only what you believe. So let tomorrow be a different day than today was. Let tomorrow be a stronger day than today was. By which I simply mean let tomorrow begin with you looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, what are my strengths and how can I contribute them today? And then let every day after that start the same way, because you've always known what your strengths are. You've always known what was inside of you. So trust them, be proud of them, and go out and make your mark.